Hello, good morning, everyone. How are you? Today we're gonna start with the C Sharp 8.0, new C Sharp version. What's new in C Sharp 8.0, and let's see if it's probably breaking the wall because many people were talking about it, and they said they find it really different. Some new changes are there, so let's explore. What is C sharp? I hope everyone knows it. And if you don't know, then please leave. I'm just kidding. So, C sharp is a strongly tapped object oriented programming language. C sharp is open source, simple, modern, flexible, and versatile. People will say, is it really strongly typed object oriented programming language? Then I will say yes. In every sense, it's strongly typed. Um, this is just overview about versioning. So we have 8 versions till now, and the first 2 versions were ISO 1 and ISO 2. When you put in your config file that this language C sharp version is 8.0 or 7.3, that means your compiler will understand the syntax till that language. So this is all about a config file. Let's understand the difference between frameworks and versions. I'm talking about this before starting with C Sharp just to compare because many people don't understand the difference between frameworks and language. So let's just clear that out. So if you say .NET framework, that means all below C Sharp 7.3, and .NET Framework is used for Visual in Visual Studio for Windows application basically. But when Microsoft wanted that everyone can use Visual Studio and everyone can use C Sharp .NET, then they introduced .NET Core. So cross-platform framework they needed, and then they introduced .NET Core. .NET Core was also introduced as .NET 2.0. There was one also, but then more stable version was 2.x, and then recently they introduced 3.x, which has C Sharp 8. Then what is .NET Standard? Um, Simply, when you created two frameworks, .NET Framework and .NET Core Framework, then you introduced actually two different type of frameworks. And when you create a library, you if you have built your library using .NET Framework, then that cannot be used on .NET Core and vice versa. Then you needed a simple common framework which is understood by both .NET Framework and .NET Core. So they introduced .NET Standard. So .NET Standard is cross framework version of .NET. So I hope it's clear for you between three .NET Framework, .NET Standard, and .NET Core. So let's start with the um, changes. What a new C Sharp has, what they have. So they introduced recently read-only members in structure. I hope everyone knows what is structure because this is the basic thing. If we don't know what is structure, then we won't understand what is it. So structures are value types and they are stored on stack. So then what's the difference between structure, because we have properties here. So why do we need structure and why do we need classes? So classes are encapsulating more in it. So class can contain many functions, definitions of it, and it's really used for big things. And classes are stored on heap. So references is stored on stack, and main block is stored on the heap. So basically the difference is structures are faster to use because they are on stack, and classes are used for another purpose because we need to do many multiple operations. Then structures cannot be used because structures basically creates duplicate memory every time because they are value type, so they create another copy of it, whereas reference type classes just create a reference to it, copy of reference. So let's see with Visual Studio what's difference in this C sharp version. So here is a program where I say, let's just make it a bit down. Yeah. So it's a point structure which contains double x, double y, double distance calculated with x multiply x, x square, y square, actually that's square root. So the distance is calculated here. What this means, I hope you all know, but those who don't know, it's new since C Sharp 7.2 or 1. I'm not sure exactly, but it's also recent. And basically, we used to use this expression only for link expressions, but now we can initialize properties as well, like this. So what I did, this is Visual Studio 2017, and I created a simple application, simple console application, which has this structure. And what I tried to put read only in here, and it is complaining about it. Read only modifier is not valid for this item. So what are the suggestions? It is saying first this convert it to a block, and then it will suggest other things. But basically, if I just remove read only, it goes away. But I need read only here because I don't want to create a copy of it. Otherwise, it is a lot. So read only, why do we use read only? Because that variable is read only, cannot be overwritten. So it's a single copy, and that's how we can save some space. So it doesn't work in here. Let's see with 2029, which has .NET Core 3 version and C Sharp 8. So I created the same structure here, and I put read only here, and it accepts it. But it also giving me some warning, which is something else. Call to non-read only member point.distance.get from a read only members results in implicit copy of this. So this is what we wanted to ignore, but is still using read only. We cannot because we are using another variable which is not read only. So this is just suggesting that if you don't put this or make this as read only, then you can't, you will be creating another copy of it. So your purpose is not solved. So if I just put read only here, it solves the purpose, it goes away. But then this becomes read only. What if I don't want to make this thing as read only? Then I might have some other suggestions. Then I should make this as I can include getter and setters and set put getter as read only, which is another solution. But I think if I won't go in detail with that one because this will continue the discussion. I want to limit it to just structures. So that's all about read only here. Let's continue. Default interface methods. What is the difference between abstract class and interface? I hope everyone knows it. But if you don't, then we have an interface which has some declaration about methods, some method declarations, no definition. And we are just creating a contract with the user so that he or she implements that interface fully so that every inheritant follow the same rule. But with abstract class, we have an half implemented or not implemented class and half definitions which are implemented and half not implemented. It can contain some definitions, it cannot contain some definitions. But abstract class cannot be used as multiple inheritance, whereas interfaces can be used multiple inheritance. So C# does not support multiple inheritance, but in a way, using interfaces, you can simply use multiple inheritance, which is not really multiple inheritance because interfaces doesn't have a definition for that. So then why do we need interface? So I hope it's clear. Let's see the real example. I created simple interfaces here. So I have the iShopping cart which contains calculate total. Then I have, because let's say these interfaces were not there, so I have a simple iShopping cart. Then my manager comes up and say, oh, I need calculate subtotal also. Then if I'm a good developer, then I will create another one. If I'm just starting, maybe I can include that method in the same construct interface. But okay, let's say I created another one. Then after some time, requirements changes, and it's a my manager says, "Oh, we need special interface as well, and we need to calculate tax as well." So I created this calculate tax as well. Then I created better shopping cart with tax, calculate tax. Now I have three interfaces. If demand changes or with the time and if my manager comes up with new things, then I have to create another interface, which is sometimes frustrating because I don't want to create a new interface every time. Uh, yeah, and one more thing, I just created everything in the same file, but this is not the good way to do it. I hope you understand that I don't want to create multiple folders. It's just for the teaching purpose, so we want to do it like this. Then I used it in my class shopping cart. I used all of them. So if I say, okay, I want to use them, I say I use them. Then it is saying you have to implement these interfaces. Okay, but I didn't want to use this one, then I can remove this. Of course, I can say, okay, I just need these two, which was kind of flexibility with using interfaces. So I can simply use any of them. But also at the same time, it was kind of overhead that I have to include them or I have to create new whenever I have new requirement. So C Sharp 8.0 solved this problem. Let's just put comment it out because you don't want to do it. C Sharp introduced default interface methods. So I will just comment out this thing so that you're not confused. So you have a single interface iShopping cart, which contains three methods: calculate total, calculate tax, and calculate subtotal. Whereas I have default implemented calculate total and calculate tax. Very nice. And now I can use in my any class. Let's say I only need calculate subtotal, so I override calculate subtotal. And using iShopping cart, with using iShopping cart, I can use all these three methods simply, and I'm benefiting from interface property as well as default implemented interfaces, which can be good or which can be bad as well. We will discuss this later, but for the moment, so I have another class which is shopping cart with tax, which also implements iShopping cart 8. Then this class itself implements calculate tax, calculate subtotal. So this class overrides calculate tax and calculate subtotal, but does not talk about calculate total. Okay, that's all. So if you want to use it, let's go. You will see it in. I will comment out all the things, otherwise it will create confusion. And let's see this thing. So what I did, I created a type of interface iShopping cart 8 and initialized it with iShopping cart, sorry, shopping cart with text, and another one same as better shopping cart. I'm using calculate subtotal of this class. But let me see if we have a definition for calculate subtotal or not. So we have definition for calculate subtotal. That means I should have this function to be called, and then if I go back, let's see if it contains calculate subtotal. It also contains it. So I should have original definitions from the classes. Let's run it. Let's see what we get. Oops, it's taking some time. I hope there is no error. So this is shopping cart with tax. Exactly what we expected, and same for next one, better shopping cart implemented calculates total. So this is what we expected because we are using the implemented methods. Perfect. So now we can go back to this, let's say this one, and we implemented this. But we can also call here calculate total for both, but none of them implemented calculate total. Let's see what it gives us. iShopping cart implemented calculate total. iShopping cart implement calculate total. That's perfect. That means this is what we expected because our function, our class did not implement it, so we have the default implementation. I hope you understand how could I call this function, because this shopping cart, this class shopping cart with text does not have definition for calculate total. That means if I have initialized this type as like this, then I should not have the definition for calculate total, and it is saying it does not contain definition for this. So simply inheriting a interface does not mean that you have by default implemented it's all the functions, which happens in case of if you inherit a class then you have default implemented functions in your child class from the base class. But here it is not like that. In case of interface, you have to implement that. So you still have that contract that you have to implement, otherwise you don't have that. But the problem because of that is no more there. So it's kind of flexibility that if you want to give to the user that you don't have to implement that method, then I can create a default implementation for that. At the same time, you still bound the user that you have to implement it. So if I did not implement calculate subtotal, then it will say you have a problem because this calculate subtotal is not implemented. So if I just say like this, I'm still bound and I should have problem. Let's see, it does not implement calculate subtotal. So the same contact is still there. We just added one more functionality, which is good. So this is perfect. But do you think we created abstract class? Absolutely no, because as I explained, this is not really abstract class functionality. This is simply helping the user not to giving them the option to not to implement them. So it's very simple. Then I have another case where this can be a bit tricky. Let's say we have a static string default name, and this thing is used in this calculate total function, and then I created a function which is set default name static, and I can set the name. So what I'm doing now, I have this function here. What I'm doing, I'm just calling in this constructor this function and setting the default value to shopping cart with text. So if you understood now, the default implementation of calculate total will be changed to not shopping cart, but this value I'm passing here, so shopping cart with text. So this changes here now. But what do you think? It should change for only for this class or also for this class? Because it's a static variable, it can do wonders actually. Let's see what happens with the same condition we had here. Let's see. It's stopping every time here. Wow, it changed shopping cart with text for both. You see the difference actually for both classes. That's very bad because that can give you unexpected results, and that's not good. So if I just change the order, sorry, not this one, but here the order of these two classes, because this is what causing the main thing. And let's see, I still have the same thing. What I want to show actually, because better shopping cart with tags is the constructor which is changing the value. So if I call this function little bit before this, so if I just change the order of this one here, then it will give me different of results. So this default name won't be reflected in this class, and I will have iShopping cart here. Okay, perfect. I hope it's clear. Let's go to the next one, switch expressions. So why do we use switch expressions? Everyone knows it. Switch statements actually, not switch expressions. So switch statement and switch expressions both are different. Let's see. I have a simple static do method which contains x, by, and math type. Math type is an enum which has add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So this is how we do, right? I will create a switch statement using that enum, and on the basis of that enum value, I say some value and then break. Same thing for else, for everyone else, and then default implementation of that, which throw an exception, bad operation, let's say. So this is the classical switch statement. But in C sharp 8, we can do the same thing like this. What I did, I said result equals to math type. And on that math type, I'm creating a switch expression simply like this, open brackets and curly brackets. So this code can replace all this shit. So that's a lot. Let's see how it is doing. So math type. So I'm based on this, I'm saying if the case is this, then do this. So this is a simple function implementation. I can say also I can replace it and put a function call here and create a function definition somewhere here. So it's the same thing. What I'm creating instance of that function and adding it to this one. Simple. I don't have to use break here. And in the end, for the default, this is default implementation. If you see here default, we write full, and here it's just like this. So default of this here, then throw new exception. So same thing can be replaced like this. This seems a bit easier and not so much interesting. It is interesting actually, but not that much. You might think, oh yeah, it's just that I can write less lines, but that's not all. Now if you have a tuple patterns, so if you put the same switch expression on tuple patterns, let's say rock, paper, and scissors, you have a tuple first and second. So you're playing a game rock, paper, and scissors. I hope everyone knows this. And then what I did, I just created switch expression on that. And same way, I can use two values here. So combination of two values. That's very interesting because what I'm doing, I'm playing on tuple. So I can use two combinations, rock, paper. When rock and paper both are in that combination, then rock is covered by paper, paper wins. So what I want to say is to do the same thing using switch expression, using switch statement, it would have been really a disaster actually. You would do a lot of things to do this thing using switch statement. So you just did all that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. And pay attention to the last one. So we can simply say if this is default and this is default, then this die. We can have multiple cases actually here. We are really free because we are playing on tuples. And the same thing can be used on property patterns. So same switch expression can be applied even on properties. So this is really vast. This is not only for replacing switch statement to switch expression with smaller code, but you see I have this location, which is a type of address, and I pass this sale price. And what I'm simply doing to compute the sales tax, I'm comparing based on the property of this location, because location state is property of this location. If state is WA, the sales price will be like this. And same way I can check for another property. It's interesting, you see. Based on different property values, I can simply write this down. Can you imagine how would you do this without switch expressions? Really complicated. I want you to think about it and come up with something. Then you will understand the value of switch expressions. It's really interesting. Let's continue. I hope it's clear. Then switch declarations. That's a really interesting question, because why do we use using statements? Because we don't use them often. We use them for certain classes, certain library things, options only. We don't use them all the time. Why? So, and how memory is managed. So this question answers some of the first questions. So there are two types of code in .NET. You have managed code, you have unmanaged code. So managed code is garbage collected automatically by the .NET framework, whereas the unmanaged code, which is coming from third-party libraries, so those libraries are can be developed in other languages or can be something different, which cannot be managed by .NET framework. So let's say you have for SQL Reader, that library is developed using C++. So you don't have a garbage collection for that. Then that means you need to explicitly garbage collect SQL Reader instance. To do that, what you do, you use is using statement. Let's see how. So I have simply a stream reader. Stream reader is also system.io, and this is not automatically managed, so you have to garbage collect this thing. So what you're doing, I created input file. So this is simply a function which converts file. So what I'm doing, I'm reading a file and then writing it to another file using while. And this is how normally you do. Everyone will do, I guess. But there is no problem in here. It's simple code with these curly braces. But sometimes we don't want to put these braces. Sometimes we want this to be simple. This is like 25, 26 to 15, around 10 lines, 10, 11 lines. So simply this code can be replaced by using this. What I am doing, I'm saying using var input equals to new. So same thing I write here, but I don't use the braces, curly braces. I'm saying this declaration here is falling under using. Same for the second one. When I do the operation, and this will be automatically garbage collected. The difference between this one and this one is the scope of this output file is when these curly braces ends. and the scope of this will be until you use it, so until the next end of this block. And same for this, but this will be collected first and then this will be collected, curve is collected. So that's the difference. I hope it's clear. Let's go to the next one, tuples. So we have named tuples. Do you use tuples? No one, I guess no one uses tuples. We used to do like this. So value in tuple item dot to. I hated it because you don't like tuples, because you don't know the name of the property and you just uh, playing in the dark. You just saying item one, which is I value of the first one I passed, and item two, which is type of string array, second item I passed in this tuple. And same thing for third and fourth, int and int array. So that's like you are simply creating a big mess here, and that's why people hated it, and that's why they did not use it. But now you can use named tuples. So now I can simply say string alpha. Here I did not say anything, and I can say it's string alpha, string beta, named letters, then A and B. And later on, when I want to use this thing, I can say named letters dot alpha, named letters dot beta. I am not saying item 1, item 2, I am saying with the name. So we have the named tuples. It's clear? And then we go to the fifth one, indexes and ranges. We have an array. I created every function as static because I don't want to use them directly. I want to use them directly. Don't want to create an instance and then call the methods. So this is static method. I'm having an array of string, and then what I'm doing, I'm printing the last one, last element. So the last item in the places is, can we enlarge it a bit more, because I don't know if you can see it. That is too much. Okay, that's better. So, and the same thing. So this was really a hassle, because what I'm in place is dot length minus 1 because of the index thing, one less index. So this is really a big hustle for me. I'm just trying to, if I don't do like this, and if I just put let's say like this, places 4, then I can have error later on if this array does not contain 4 elements, sorry, 5 elements, because this is index. So 4 means 5 elements, whereas we can simply use ranges and indexes. So I can simply replace whole this thing using this places, then this x and this mark, which means from last, first one. So first one from the last, which means simply 5. You need to pay attention here because you're saying first one from last, and here you say 0 from, which means the first one. Why not 0th element from last? Because simply array starts from here, then when you say 0, which means this one, and when you say 0 from last, you are already here. Then there is ending thing, and then array element start. So the null value will be there, not this one. That's why it's first from last. Okay, this is for the index, so I can simply replace this like this. But what if I want to give me items only from 2 to 4? Oh wow, I will do a loop for each from I equals to 2 to 4, boom, and then I will just use this. Ah no. Hmm. Then I can simply say give me only elements in this list, in this array from 2 to 5, which will print me second, third, fourth. Why? Because I said from 2 to 5. Same way, give me only elements only from 2 to 3. So what it will print? Second and third. Second and third. So I say second and third. So 1, 2, second and fourth. Fourth, this last index is not counted. It's not included. It's excluding. So second and third. Same way 2 to third means you can also do like using a variable. You can put this in an expression. You can also give me items only from 0 to 3, not the fourth index one. So you saying, not saying the start index, but saying dot dot, and then last from the first from the last is not included. So all the items except the last one. And if you say 1 dot dot, that means you giving all the items from 1 to 3 4. So I hope it's clear for you. Let's go to next one. So we have a class. Let's say we have a class here, lucky numbers list demo, which contains lucky numbers, my lucky numbers. And then I have a constructor here, whereas I did not initialize my lucky numbers. So if you are experienced with it, I think you have already in your minds, in your thoughts, that you're thinking that this is wrong. If you do not initialize, later on when you use this, the instance of this class, you may have exceptions, null reference exceptions, or null collation exception. So let's say you're using this in your function, in your method. You say testing list demo equals to new list demo. Okay, and then you said the first thing we discussed, testing list demo dot lucky numbers equals to new and list int. Okay, this works perfect because you don't have that exception now. But what if you initialized it? You said like this, lucky numbers equals to this, and initialized it by default. It's 21 and 7. Then if you do it here, then you miss it. You lose the default values and you replace those values with new empty list. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, then what I will do, I will compare. I will see, oh, if this is null, in that case initialize. Okay, that's good, but this looks really bad. This looks really shit. I don't want to do that. Okay, then what I will do, I will create list demo question mark dot. So if this is null, then I don't go to the next one. If this is not null, then I go to lucky numbers. Then if lucky numbers is not null, then I add one. But this is again not fulfilling my goal, because if this is null, then I add it if this is not null. But if it's null, then what I do? Nothing. Whoa, that's again bad. So what I had, another possibility. List testing list demo dot lucky numbers. If this thing is null, two question marks, then I initialize it. So this these four lines can be replaced with one line like this. So we can just say double question mark. If this is null, then initialize it. So it will evaluate. If this is null, then it will do it. If not, then it will continue. So it will not replace your default values, and it will fulfill your um, purpose. Okay, then the last one but not least, nobody uses it. It's local functions. So having a local function, let's say like this, you could not have before the definition of it. So now you have the local function and simply in a definition for it. So we don't use it that much. I hope you liked it, and please let me know in comment section if you have other ideas. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.